Welcome to Blonde Cards and Crafts. Let's make something together. Hello everyone, today we're starting with a bridge fold card, and this card will measure 5 by 7, but we need a card base that measures 7 by 7. So the piece here is the bridge piece, and this is a 1 by 5 piece, and I've used some of the wooden letters on that as well as a stamp from my set. I've die cut out one of the watches, and I have tiny little brads in my stash, so I was able to use one of those so the hands move. I have a center panel piece that'll go on the back of my card, and you can see here I have it a grey matte piece measuring 2 3/4 by 6 3/4, and a white piece for the sentiment measuring 2.5 by 6.5. I've just embellished it there with some feathers from the kit. So here on my card, because it's a 5 by 7 card and we have 6 by 6 papers, I've cut my paper at 6 by 4.5. So because I've done that, I'll be able to cut strips then for the card base, and I'll have a piece in the middle, but that's okay because I'm going to embellish that blank space in the middle. So here's all our measurements. I have the measurements there off to the left for all the patterned paper pieces that I've used. So each of those pieces will fit in between the score lines. Now to put this card together, I'm going to use my Collal glue. This glue dries lovely and stiff and gives a nice end result to our card. So you can see there at the top I have 4 of these slim strips, and those measure 3/4 of an inch by 4.5 inches, and then this center panel measures 2 3/4 by 4.5, and that will give us the gap there in the middle. That's okay, I'll make a feature of that later on. So then we have 4 smaller strips on the bottom part, and those 4 small strips are 1.5 inches by 3/4 of an inch, and then the center piece, that one measures 1.5 by 2 3/4. So we get to use our 6 by 6 sheet, but for a 5 by 7 card. I was really trying to figure out how I was going to do that without having to use 2 different types of patterned paper. So I'm chuffed with this. So you can see there my card has got the score lines on it. And what we're going to do now is fold and burnish those score lines. So our card base is 7 by 7, and I scored that at 1, 2, 5 and 6, and that's what's given us our bridge fold card. I'm going to put my sentiment panel on the back so we have somewhere to write our message. And then the bridge part I was going to put across the middle there where it's blank, but I thought, you know what, I'm going to use some of those fab peel-offs. Now this first one I put at the bottom of the paper, and I thought, you know what, I should have brought that down a little bit and left a gap between the bottom of the paper and where my peel-offs are, but I ran with it. I just went with it, and you know what, it looks fab. I'm chuffed. So the bridge piece we have there, I'm going to take some of the peel-offs and I'm going to add them onto that, and it'll tie the two things together, our card and our sentiment panel there at the bridge part. So I've put some peel-offs on that, and I've put some of the letters on there for Dad. This card was for my husband's dad, and I didn't even get to take pictures at the end of it because later that evening we went out to celebrate his birthday, and I just love that card, so we gave it to him. So I've put some foam, double-sided foam on the bridge part, but it's only going to sit on one of the raised panels on each end. So you'll see there, it's just out of screenshot. What I've done in the meantime is I've taken a feather and I've put that in the center, and then I'm putting the dad down. So you can see at each end of the bridge part where the birthday sentiment and the dad is, that's where I've put my foam tape. Now you could take the watch piece and use clear acetate and raise that up, you know, so it's sitting flush across, but I wanted it recessed in on the back of the card. So what I've done is I've taken some foam tape and I'm going to put that around the card, and then I'm going to sit that on the middle panel. And that makes a lovely focal point, I think, to the card. So there we go, that's our first card, all nice finished. And we're going to move on to card number 2. Our next card that I'm going to make is using a ready-made card that I have in my stash. This is a 6x6 scalloped edged card. And what I've done is I've taken some grey pattern paper, and this is going to be my matte layer. And this layer measures 5.5 by 5.5. And then I have some of the patterned paper, and this will measure 5.25 by 5.25. I've used one of the cut aparts, and I'm going to mat that onto, again, a grey piece of card, just so it'll kind of lift off our pattern paper. I've got 2 of the moths that came in the kit, and I'm going to bend up the wings on these using a bone folder. So I'm just brushing it over the wing, and it gives it a curve to the wing. And what I'll do is I will stick the body down using glue, but I will put a little piece of foam tape behind each of the wings where it's curved. That way it'll keep its shape when it goes into a card or into an envelope. And I love doing this with butterflies and dragonflies and things like this. I think it gives it a nice shape, you know, to the card. I'm going to use a sentiment from the sticker sheet. This is never give up on your dreams, and I'm going to actually cut that in half so I can make it into 2 sentiments. I have an offcut here of some of the patterned paper, and I'm going to embellish the inside of the card, the bottom inside. So let's go ahead, speed up our video and assemble our card. So I'm going to take the cutter part and stick that down using my Nuvo glue onto the matte layer. And then once I've that done, I'm going to add some foam tape to the back of this. In the meantime, I'm going to stick down my patterned paper to my matte layer for the front of our card base itself. And again, I'm going to use the Nuvo glue for doing that. Once that's adhered down and nice and straight, I'm going to put my little piece of patterned paper there on the inside of our card. And because of the direction of the flowers on that, I put it over onto the right hand side inside. So there's our cut apart, making sure that's nice and straight. And then I'll take the sentiment that I want to use from it. And I'm going to cut this at an angle rather than just a blunt end. And stick one to the left and then one to the right. Do my best to get it straight. And then with that, I'm going to use some of my Nuvo glue to stick my moths down. Gosh, that word never sounds right when you're saying it. So we have one down, and then we'll pop the other one over as well. I'm going to use some Glossy Accents on the body of each of those moths, and then I'll use my Spectrum Noir sparkle pen, and I'll put that all over the wings of the moths. Then all we'll need to do for a finish is just embellish the card, and I'm going to use some of the sequins that came in the kit to do that. I'm going to put 5 sequins on this card, and we got some the sequins in this kit are just so lush. They really go well with all the papers and everything that came in the kit, but I really love these ones, especially the bronzy brown colored ones. So once I have my sequins adhered to my card, I'm then going to come along with my Glossy Accents, and I'm going to fill each of the sequins. They'll help the sequin to make sure that they stay on the card, even though they are stuck down using the Nuvo glue, but it also gives a nice finish, I think, to the sequins as well. So there we go, that is our second card all done. So now we're moving on to card number 3, and I have a 5x7 ready-made card blank here. And on that I'm going to put another piece of card which measures 4 3/4 by 6 3/4. I'm going to put this matte layer into an embossing folder that I have in my stash, and it's a large embossing folder. I also have a cut apart measuring 5 1/4 by 3 3/4. I'm going to use a sentiment strip, and I have these off the sticker sheet that came in the kit, as well as 3 of the little wooden icons, and these are bird cages. I'm going to speed things up now and start putting our card together. So I'm using the Collal glue here, and I find this is a really good glue for sticking down. I find that it gives a nice rigidity to my cards. When I use it, it dries really good and strong. So I have my matte layer down, and now I'm going to stick down my cut apart, and I have lots of little pieces of foam tape behind this, so it'll give a bit of dimension to our card. And once I have that on straight, I'm going to press that down. Now with the strip that I have here, the sticker strip, what I do is I put my foam tape on the stickers. Then I use my EK Success tool, and that will take off any other sticky residue left on the sticker, because I don't want it to stick down any place, you know, that it shouldn't once it goes into the envelope. I'm also using my Sizzix glue gun to stick down my wooden bird cages. I just want to be sure that they won't come off, and I find that the hot glue is the best for that. I'm using my Nuvo glue then to put some little drops of glue around my card, and to that I'm then going to take my sequins to stick them down. That was Buster, you could hear there, barking at me. He wanted to go out. There must have been some birds in the garden, but himself and Ghost are outside now. So I have all my sequins stuck down, and that is our third card. We're moving on to card 4 now, and I've lost footage. I don't know where it went. I think the pixies took it, or the leprechauns, because it was Paddy's weekend, but I've lost footage. Anyway, this card is a 6x6 card. It has patterned paper of 5 3/4 by 5 3/4. I've taken a cut apart and I've fussy cut around that. I have stuck down one of the feathers that I've cut apart from the sheet, and I've embossed a silver and gold feather and put some foam tape behind those and stuck them on the card. I've stuck down a couple of sequins around the card, and then I have finished it off by taking some Glossy Accents and filling the sequins with that. And there is our 4th card. It's a pretty basic card, so I'm not too upset about that one. So now we're moving on to card 5, and this again is a 6x6 card base that I'm using for this card. I've taken one of the paper sheets, and this is 5 1/2 by 5 1/2, and I have used a die to cut out this curved shape on the grey card that came in the card kit. So I was thinking of using them as like hills, but I've decided to turn this one upside down. And I'm going to bridge the top and the bottom die cut pieces out using this embossed, silver embossed. Is it an owl, an eagle, a bird of prey? Whatever it is, that's what I'm going to use between the two. So I've stuck down my beautiful navy mottled patterned paper, and now I'm going to put down the die cut out pieces. I've put some foam tape behind them, and I've put the sentiment "follow your own way." That's a sticker that I've put down. Now, I was thinking of putting things across the top above where I'm going to call this an owl. I don't know, maybe it's an eagle, but my bird, above where my bird is, I'm going to put a sentiment there, but I haven't decided what the sentiment is going to be, and I'm going to leave it open that I can at some stage put maybe a person's name or whatever it is. But with all these cards, I haven't put sentiments on, you know, your general happy birthday or happy anniversary or whatever it is, because I want to leave these in my stash that I can do that at a later date. So now I'm going to finish up putting some sequins on the top right hand side, and then again fill it with my Glossy Accents. And there is card number 5. Yes, 5. I had to stop and see. Okay, so we're moving on to, this is a 5x7 card, and in the kit we got these lovely tags, and this is a large tag. What I've done is fussy cut out some of the different flowers and leaves that came on the cut apart sheet, and then I have put some of the washi tape on, one of the sticker sentiments that says best wishes, and I've taken one of my distress oxides and I've gone all around the edge of my flowers and my tag to give it that kind of antique look. Here I have 3 fishtail banners that I've cut out. I have a skinny, a medium and a large. The skinny one is 1x6. Then the medium patterned paper is 2x6. And then the large one, which is a lovely brown paper from my stash, is 3.5x6 3/4. And they'll sit on a 5x7 card base. By the way, guys, there's a bit of barking going on in the background. My next door neighbor must have their dog outside, so I do apologize if you're hearing that on and off throughout the voiceover. Anyway, I have my 3 banners now nicely stained up using the walnut stain. I'm just going to use a little bit extra here along the side of this one because it's a darker color patterned paper. I just needed the staining along the edge to be a little bit darker. So again, I'm going to use my Collal glue to stick down these fishtail banners. I'm going to put the large one in the middle of my card, then the medium one I'll put towards the left hand side, and the small one I'm going to put towards the right hand side. I will embellish the banners by using some of the peel-offs. I'm going to put 1 peel-off on each of the 2 banners, the medium and the small one. This was an afterthought. The peel-offs were sitting on my desk and I thought, you know what, that would be really cool if I put them along there. So that's what I did. And in hindsight, doing the voiceover and watching the video, I should have actually picked up and put one on the tag as well. I think along where the washi tape is probably would have been nice, but sure, it's all grand now, it doesn't matter. So I have some foam tape and I'm going to put that on the back of the tag. That way we'll have a bit of dimension going on in the card. Once I get all the release paper off the back of that, I'm going to stick that down there. It's a little bit above halfway on the card. I'm going to cut off any of the little extra bits peeking over the edge, and then I'm going to stick down the string that's on the tag, because that would drive me nuts if I got this card and there was just string hanging on it. So I'm impatient. Rather than using my Nuvo glue, what I'm going to use for the sequins that I'm going to stick down on the card, I have my Sizzix hot glue gun heating up off to the side there. So I'm going to pick out a selection of the different sequins, stick them down, fill each of them with my Glossy Accents, and then I'm going to come along with my glue gun and arrange the twine. I'm going to use 2 little dabs of the hot glue, and that'll just hold it in place. And that's done. So there we go. That's our 5th card. And now we're moving on to our 6th card, and again this is a 5x7 card. I have a 4 3/4 by 6 3/4 silver panel, and then I have a patterned piece of paper which is 4.5 by 6.5. Now what I've done is I've cut the 4.5 inch width off my patterned paper and then taken the excess, stuck that onto the bottom and cut it to size. That will give me a piece big enough to fit on the card. I've die cut out the watch as well in silver with a background in white. And this is what I do with the dies when I get them. I have these pockets. I use some 300 GSM white card, and then I have some of the magnetic sheets. They're not very strong, so that's why I stick them down onto 300 GSM card stock. That keeps everything in place inside. So I'm going to use my Collal glue and I'm going to stick down my patterned paper piece. I've used some peel-offs from my stash. They're silver ones. One reason is to cover up where the bottom piece is joined on, and the other is to match the silver that's on our clock piece. So I'm going to take the foam that I have on the clock piece and I'm going to take off the release paper from that and stick that down. And then I'm going to use a little bit of glue to stick down like the chain part. And I'll use my Nuvo glue for that, as well as to stick down some of the sequins. Once I've all those sequins in place, I'm going to use my Glossy Accents to fill in the sequins, and that'll be that card. And I love these cards because they're, you know, they're kind of masculine. I know you can give them to a female, a he, a she, or they, a them, or whatever, but I just kind of feel they are quite masculine papers this month, and it's not something I have a lot of in my stash. So it's going to be great to have these ready to go to just stick a happy birthday on, or whatever sentiment I want. Next we're moving on to this card, which is card number 6, and it's a 6x6 card. I have some pattern paper here measuring 5 3/4 by 5 3/4, and then I've taken one of the cutter parts. This is a 4x4 cutter part, and it looks like a tile. I've also die cut out another piece of card from the patterned paper, which is as well 4x4 in size. This card is going to spin, hence the reason for the hole in the middle. Now, although I have foam tape between these two tiles, that's what I'm going to call them, I've still been able to put a hole through the center using my X-cut punch. This is the punch that I use. Now I have a standard punch, but that'll only punch in about 1 inch far, whereas this one you can punch your hole anywhere on the paper. It comes with 3 different little sizes. So you have your standard, your medium, your medium, large and small. So I've used the smallest one, and it's punched right through the 2 pieces of cardstock as well as the foam square that's in the middle there. So once I've that done, I'm going to take a die cut piece of cardstock, and this happened to die cut out from the center of my watch there. I've got a brad, and then I have my watch. Now I have my little hands on the watch, which are going to be able to move, but once my watch gets stuck down to this piece here, they won't move. But that's okay, I don't mind, because the tiles will spin around in the background, but our watch will stay the right way up. So I have my brad going through my round piece as well as my 2 tiles, and I needed to go through the patterned piece of paper here as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to punch a hole through the large patterned piece of paper, then stick that down onto my card base, and you won't even know that there's anything going on in the background. I'll use my hot glue there, put it on that brad, and then I can stick my little watch front down onto that. So the watch front will be stuck to the brad, but the tiles will still be able to spin. So let's speed everything up now and we'll assemble the card, and you'll be able to see what I'm doing as I go along. I've got my ruler out and I'm going to find the center point in my patterned paper. And once I have that got, which I have, I can then take my punch and put a hole through that. Now I'm going to put my tiles and the brad through, and I'm going to put some tape across the brad at the back of this. I don't want the brad to be able to move, but I do want the tiles to be able to move. So I'll take off the release paper, put some liquid adhesive onto my pattern paper, and then center that onto my card base and stick that down. Lovely. So now my tile will still move, but the brad in the center won't. So now I'm going to put a little bit of hot glue on the top of the brad and then center my watch face down on top of that. There we go, look. Our little watch doesn't move, but our tiles spin around. Isn't that cool? I saw that on a video by Sam from Mixedupcraft, and I loved it, and I thought I can't wait to do that with the Love From Lizi kit. Thought it'd be perfect. So I have a little extra piece of the pattern paper. I've stuck that inside in our card and trimmed it off. All I need to do now is take some sequins. I'm just looking at the card. I have it here beside me on the desk. I love it. I just sit here spinning it. It's so cool. But I'm going to put some sequins down around. Now I need to make sure where I put my sequins that when I spin my card, they're not going to get in the way. So I'm only going to put sequins on the tiles, not on the card base itself. Moving on to card number 9. I'm using a 6x6 card base for this, and I have a piece of 5.5 by 5.5 patterned paper. I've also got this cut apart and it measures 3 by 4, and I have backed that on a piece of white card, and that's 3 1/8 by 4 1/8. So this card I've put down one of the owls, and the cut apart has an owl on it and they're very similar in size. So what I've done is I've kind of done a decoupage thing. I've taken the cut apart owl, put some foam tape on it and stuck that down onto the owl on the cut apart. I put foam tape behind that so it'll give a bit of dimension. And that's basically it, short of sequins. So let's speed it up and put our card together. Here again I'm going to use my trusty Collal glue to stick down my patterned paper piece. And once I have that centered on the card base, I'm then going to stick down our cut apart. I'm just going to take the release paper off the sticky foam and then put that down towards the left hand side of the card. I'm going to put some sequins on the card, and on this card I'm going to put 5 sequins. I'm going to put a cluster of 3, then 2, then 1. I'm also going to add some sparkle to our owl's wings, and I'm going to use my Spectrum Noir sparkle pen to put a bit of sparkle on that. And that'll be card number 9 finished. So now we're going to move on to card number 10. This is a 6x6 card base that I'm using, and on that I'm going to use some of the patterned paper as well as a cut apart. Now this patterned paper I die cut out of this, the 4x4 tile that was die cut out of the middle, and the patterned paper, so it's giving me a frame, and my frame measures 5 1/4 by 5 1/4. So my frame will sit on my card base like so. I have my cut apart here and I have foam tape on the back, and that's going to sit inside where the die cut piece came out. And then I'm going to take this gold embossed bird and I'm going to sit that on the top left hand side, just like that. I'll add some sequins to this card, and then that will be that card. Now the sequins I have here I'm using from my stash. So let's go ahead and speed this up while we assemble our card. Now I've used red liner tape on the back of my frame because I did consider making this a shaker card, but then I changed my mind. I thought I'll go with just a standard card, because I've got 2 bonus cards at the end of this. Yeah, we're going for card 11 and card 12. But once I get my bird on here, all I need to do is add down my sequins. And then once I have that done, I'm going to take some Spectrum Noir and I'm going to go over the black areas on our atlas, on our world image there. And with that, that's that card finished. And now we're on card 11. This is again a 6x6 card base with a piece of pattern paper which measures 5 3/4 by 5 3/4. I'm going to put my little clock or watch that I have cut out on this card. Now the hands don't spin on this one, they're just stuck down. And I've taken this cut apart. It measures 3 1/4 by 5, but I've also added a little piece of patterned paper along the edge. I wanted to make it a little bit wider, and I've also put on a gold peel off from my stash to match the gold watch on the front. So we're going to stick down our pattern paper using the Collal glue. I'm going to stick down the cut apart using the liquid glue as well, and then I'm going to pop down my little watch front, and I have foam pads behind that so that it'll give it a bit of it'll raise it up off our card. Once I've that done, I'm going to then add some of our sequins. I'm going to put 6 sequins on this panel, on the cut apart panel, 3 on the right hand top side and 3 on the left hand bottom side. And I'm going to go with 3 of the I suppose they're like a creamy peachy color on the bottom, and the black ones then at the top on the right. And then that will be that card finished. And finally we come to card 12. I have a 3x5 panel here, and I have my watch on it and a sentiment which will be on the front of our card. And then our card base itself, this is a piece of 10.5 by 7. You're going to score it at 5 and 5.5, and that'll give us our spine down the middle, and it will allow for our center page. Okay, so we're going to need some patterned paper for the outside front and back and inside front. So we need 3 pieces of patterned paper measuring 4 3/4 by 6 3/4. We'll need 2 black mats measuring 4 7/8 by 6 7/8. And those patterned papers you can see there, I actually use the stamps in the kit and stamp them out myself. So I've got the feathers for the front and back, and then inside here I've got the dream catchers. Now this black mat measures 4 3/4 by 6 3/4, and my sentiment piece measures 4 1/4 by 6 1/4. I've used some of the stamps from my stash as well as the feathers from the kit, the stamp feathers from the kit. This is our center panel, and this insert measures 5 by 6 3/4, and you're going to score it at 1/4. Then we have some mats and layers on the front. The black mat is 4.5 by 6.5, and the patterned mat is 4 1/4 by 6 1/4, and the pocket is 4 1/4 by 1 3/4. Then on the other side of that insert piece, we're going to have some more mats and layers. So our black mat measures 4.5 by 6.5, the white one measures 4 3/8 by 6 3/8, and then our pattern paper measures 4 1/8 by 6 1/8. And then I have a pocket piece here, and that measures 4 1/8 by 2. So that'll be on the other side. I have 2 bookmarks that I've made, and I have used again patterned paper that I've stamped myself using some of the stamps in the kit. Now these 2 bookmarks, they're far too long. I would recommend, if you're making bookmarks, to cut them at 2 inches by no more than 6 inches, and they'll fit nicely into your pocket. And you can see here I've done some stamping, and most of it is the black paper that I originally embossed, stamped and embossed, and the white paper that I stamped with the feathers. I've just used the scraps for these. That's what I've done with them. I've taken a Papercraft Essentials issue 183. This is a freebie that came in that magazine, the next chapter. It's brilliant. I've used that for stamping little books and different little sentiments on the back, just one more chapter, etc. I've also got It's Your Time. That was a sentiment on a cut apart, and I just cut the little sentiment words out. I've got a large tag fridge magnet that I've made, and this measures 2 5/8 by 5 5/8. Again, I've used the die for the watch, some of the feather stamped papers that I did, the peel-offs. I've used a stamp from my stash, and I've just put that all together, embossed some of the stamps. Then I've put it through my laminator as well as the bookmarks through the laminator, stuck some magnets on it, and away we go. So let's speed everything up and put it together. Oh yeah, by the way, I forgot about the spine. You need a little piece for the spine as well, and the measurements are there on the screen. So I'm starting with my stamped feather piece for the front, and that's going on my black mat. And like I said, that's going to go on the front of the card. I've already got the mat and layer on the back of the card done, as well as the spine. You can see it all there. So that's the front and back on the outside of our card. I'm going to take the black patterned paper that I've made using the little arrows and the dream catchers. I had to stop and think there for a minute. And then I'm going to take our insert page and I'm going to stick that in. Now that sits right between those two score lines in the middle. I'm using some double-sided tape to stick that down, and I'm going to put a little bit of wet glue, my Nuvo glue, along there as well, just so it'll give me a little bit of wiggle room to make sure I get that in there nice and centered. Now I'm going to stick down my sentiment piece, and that already I have my mat and layer stuck down, and then I have my mat layer for the inside insert piece. I didn't do this in any order. I do apologize. I was just crafting away doing this, thinking I'm just going to make this for myself, and I was recording it. I don't know even why I decided to record it, but I had my phone up above my head and I thought, you know what, I'll record this. But I honestly didn't think I was going to add it into this video because they're usually quite long. But because of all that's going on and people isolating themselves and everything, I thought, you know what, I'm just going to stick it at the end of the video. Either people will watch it or they won't. It's up to themselves. I have done a tutorial making this book card on my channel, and this was inspired by Sam from Mixedupcrafts. I watch Sam from Mixedupcrafts. She's a UK lady that does card making, and she's just exceptional. I mean, we all love Jennifer Maguire, but Sam comes up with some amazing ideas. You can see there at the top of my card, my bookmarks are actually sticking above it. That's because I made them too long, but I will go back and I'm going to shorten them, and you'll see that in the pictures at the end. So that's it, folks, short of embellishing the outside with some sequins. That's all my cards for this month's March 2020 Love From Lizi kit. I have kind of struggled with it, but really enjoyed it. Does that sound weird? I've really enjoyed making these masculine kind of cards. I've struggled with keeping them so plain, but then, you know, I got to make the book card at the end, so I'm delighted with that. I hope you've enjoyed my tutorial. I'm sorry it's taken so long to come out, but with Paddy's weekend and this COVID-19, which I haven't even discussed, that will be for the next video. It's coming out late, but hey ho, that's the way life is. If you've enjoyed this video, I'd love for you to give it a thumbs up, and you might consider subscribing too. I'm on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, so if you're on any of them and you want to tag me with what you make, that'd be fab. Until the next time, guys, thanks for watching, and here's some pictures of the cards we've made today. Bye for now.